he first joined us last week, Dr. James Garrow, Ph.D., his information has gone viral, just millions of views on YouTube of our interview and Gary Francie's interview with him on his news program. So the good news is this information is getting out to people. So I wanted to get him back on, also take some phone calls as well. Again, I'm Alex Jones, your host, if you just joined us. The question, of course, is Obama has posed to top brass as the litmus test. Will you fire on U.S. citizens? That is the litmus test. Obama is saying to the top brass, will you fire on U.S. citizens? And again, we already have this in the new Army training manual from 2010 that I'll go over the numbers for, so you can pull it up at army.mil. You've already seen the drills out there where the military practices shooting large crowds of Americans. That's going on in the news almost every day now. The urban warfare training. You saw the gun confiscation in Katrina. You saw ABC News where they said, yeah, if you don't turn them in, we shoot an American. And the police chief says all the guns will be taken, no one will be allowed to be armed. And they're training the military to engage us under Brigade Homeland. I mean, that was in the Army Times 3.5 years ago. I've had colonels on from the Army admitting, you know, they were doing gun confiscation drills in Arcadia, Iowa. That they now run Army checkpoints in California, Tennessee. But a top retired general, a quote, living military legend, and there's been another military legend, wink, wink, General Boykin, former head of Special Forces, has come out and said our government's arming al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria. We're going into a police state. Our country's in deep trouble. He's also in the film Behold a Pale Horse that we sell with Charlie Daniels as the host of at InfoWarsStore.com. That's a side issue, but General Boykin is in that. I'm guessing it's General Boykin. Our guest will not say that's who told him this, but this is a credible guy. That's why we have Dr. Garrow back on. But I wanted him to recap, go over the basics of the gear up towards despotism. I mean, who can deny that? This is really out in the open now with our guest, and now he can also make some other points that he didn't get to last week and some new information. And, of course, he also runs pinkpagodagirls.com. He's been over in China since 1968 with English language schools. And some of his staff, the government was trying to forcibly abort their kids, also kill already born babies. And so he started a group in 2000 that saved over 45,000 Chinese girls. And I can certainly vouch for him because even a member of my crew has adopted Chinese girls out of China and is well aware of the pioneering work of Pink Pagoda Girls, the group he founded, because they'll die if they're not adopted. You understand? They kill them. They kill them. So just amazing. And, of course, there's more people wanting to adopt kids every year in this country than there are even abortions. But they never tell the young women at Planned Parenthood, you know, there's Christian groups that will pay for your whole pregnancy, pay for your medical bill, and depending on the group, give you $20,000 to $50,000 after you have the baby for not killing it. You see those billboards up everywhere, abortion, you know, need alternatives. That's some of the Christian groups. And then they even try to get you a job afterwards. Wow. So you want to go have an abortion that doubles your chances of cervical and uterine cancer. I'm going off into left field as I always do now. Major studies have shown per abortion. Or get paid to have the baby and not have it killed. Oh, but Planned Parenthood won't tell you that because their goal is to kill. They're eugenicists, Margaret Sanger. They want to, quote, kill the black weeds. They were founded for that, but moved on to everybody else, of course. But, oh, it doesn't matter. They can get somebody up on MSNBC saying we got to deal with the white crackers. So you get some street lingo going out there. Because, you know, you talk about getting the white crackers. That's cool. That's liberal. But, oh, hey, let's not chop up the babies. Shut up, racist. Okay, let's go to our guest, Pink Pagoda Girls, a founder, Dr. James Garrow, Ph.D. Doc, recap the intel you've got, the other info. Tell people what we're facing here. You've got the floor.
Well, Alex, as you know, and I stated last week, the difficulty is that this is sounding more and more true. You know, I was a little doubtful myself. I have to be honest with you. But more and more of the evidence coming forward since we were putting it out to the public, and of course you've known this for quite a while. But it's just so scary what is happening. And as you see the march down the roadway to despotism, It is, to me, it's just mind-boggling. But, you know, this senior Army officer, retired, who came forward and asked me if I would help him put the word out. He was quite frightful of what was going on in America and where things were going in terms of the fact that the military were now going to be asked to take action against the American public. And for doing what? For rioting? No, nothing like that. It had to do with a scenario of, would you in fact fire on people who had been in possession of arms, had refused to allow confiscation of those arms or to lay down those arms, which was, you know, their right to hold under the Constitution, the Second Amendment. You're well aware of that. But now, would you as an officer order your troops to fire if the commander-in-chief, you know, who you have taken an oath to actually obey as commander, would you obey that order? So many have said no. I think it's going to come out fairly soon that many people are saying no. I've had so many phone calls, Alex, I got to tell you, between interviews and all of that. I've had so many people phoning me, current military and retired military, saying thank you for bringing it out.
Well, we just want to thank you. Now, listen, have you talked to the retired, quote, military legend since he wanted you to warn people about this? Because, again, I can separately figure out who it is myself. I can separately, you know, research the information and know that it's already being set up. I mean, it's publicly being set up. Have you talked to that individual anymore?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. It was a very short conversation. He called me and just said thank you. And that was the extent of it. So if you're going into, did you ask him to come forward again? No, I didn't get that chance. In fact, all he wanted to do was say thank you. That's it.
So he just wanted you to get the info out, and he thinks he's going to be safe having you do it instead of him coming out.
Yes. Yes, very much. He believes that what he's done is quite brilliant from what I know of this person and what we talked about, how it was going to come out and why me and everything. And to me, it seemed to be not as if he was a coward in any way. And people have said that, you know, and sent me messages, you know, that, oh, he has to stand up, he has to come forward. Actually, no, he doesn't. Watch, Alex, where things go in the near future. And I think you'll appreciate that this man was right on with what he did. Let's face it, he was not a dull-witted somebody who is unable to strategize. Quite a brilliant man.
Sure. Now, expanding on that, I never implied he was a coward. I have seen some people say that. But after you were on last week, I began to think, actually, it makes sense because Smedley Butler, when he exposed the Nazi fascist plan, working with the Bushes, Prescott Bush at the time, but he was just mid-level in it, and a bunch of other people, to have a fascist takeover in the 30s, he went to Congress first, and then that's how they rolled it up. And I've been noticing now that, did you see former Senator Hagel say to Obama, you can't trust the military, you're not in control of the Pentagon, they're not doing what we say? Because I know the military over and over again has actually stopped some of these wars that a lot of people say would lead to World War III possibly. I mean, does that tie into what you're saying we should look for in the future?
Well, Alex, certainly people are getting it, aren't they? If this guy says, you know, this to Obama by way of warning, it's a good warning. And, you know, the military folks, I've had so many of the rank and file phone me up and say, you know what, we would never turn our guns. Are you kidding? If the officer said that to us, we'd turn them on them. And that's the message that's kind of going out there. Obama does not have the support of the military at all. He thinks he can command and control. But the man's living in la-la land.
Well, he certainly is. Dr. James Garrow, Ph.D., joins us from Toronto, Canada right now, runs some of the largest English-speaking training schools in China, and has saved 45,000-plus little Chinese girls that would have been killed or used in medical experiments. I'm not kidding. It's very macabre. I want to talk some about how they kill those little girls before you leave us so we can, you know, put a human face on this and not just have it be a statistic. But I've had countless military. In fact, I could scrub the phone calls right now, but we're going to go to them later, so I'm not going to. and open the phones, but we'll do that after we take some of these calls, and say, military, call in. Are you being trained to take our guns? Are you being trained for killing Americans? And they'll call in and say, yes, indeed, we are. But again, I have the Army training manual. In fact, I'll pull it up here in a moment for radio and TV viewers. I mean, this is the new mission. And we're hearing now, oh, we got to have troops on the streets and all of this. But I only see that serving to wake up the police and military.
Oh, amen. That's exactly what's happening. That's the result. There's been a total miscalculation on the part of Obama and crew who don't have a military mindset. They don't understand what loyalty really is, and the fact that the military are loyal to the American people. They really are. They believe in the role of being a protector to the American public. And they've sworn an oath to the Constitution. But listen, who's behind the Constitution? It is we, the people. Nothing short of that. That's it. And so bottom line, these people are understanding it. There's a huge, as I said again, I'm going to say it, it's a huge miscalculation. And I mean, if there were people who had bad intent looking to control through the military the country, this would be certainly a way to march it toward that. But Mr. Obama has thought that he would be the one that would be able to have the loyalty of the troops. And I'm sorry, the troops are not stupid.
Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. All right, we're going to your calls coming up in the next segment. Dr. James Garrow, Ph.D., is our guest, and he's relaying whistleblower information to us, which is obvious with all the movements out in front of us and the training that's going on. Continuing with talking to the military people that have been contacting you and other information, what else do you think is important to relay to people that we didn't talk about last week or that people aren't aware of this week? Because you know, these reports that you're putting out, that I'm putting out, are again, really getting picked up online. People are paying attention to it. And people are really concerned. You know, there's not much we can do about corrupt politicians now or globalists selling us out, but look at all the bullets sold out in almost every place in the U.S. Look at 10 million guns a month being sold. Previous record, 5 million last year. I mean, the system better know people don't trust them anymore.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you've given me the opportunity to do this. There is a warning, a real caution. When people ask me, you know, what is it that we can do to safeguard ourselves? Well, I'm going to warn you right now. Let me read something, too. And this is coming from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This is what the counselors, psychiatrists, the doctors use to have a look at you as to whether you're crazy or not. I'm just throwing out a crazy word there, but there it is. And here's what I've put online. Get ready for the new onslaught of insight. We'll call it insight from Obamacare, the new mental illness that will fight itself into DSM-5. Since the late 90s, DSM-4 has been that manual of diagnostics. So now we have a new one coming out in May. Well, we have a precursor here of what's going to be in it. Whatever it defines, it'll allow the government to lock you up for an indeterminate length of time, label you as something which will result in your inability to own or possess a firearm, and allow the police unlimited search and seizure of your domicile or your mode of conveyance. You'll not be allowed a security clearance, a driver's license, or pilot's license. You'll not be allowed to serve in the military or law enforcement. You'll not be allowed to work in government service, schools, daycare centers, hospitals, or medical clinics. You'll be restricted in your movements and be forced by law to carry an implanted device on or in your person. You will be restricted in your ability to do financial transactions, to buy or sell goods, or services. Now, my bottom line is this. You'll now know how a Jew felt under the Nazi regime. But here's how they're going to do it, Alex. In the manual, GSM-5, here's what we have, DSM-5. There's something called a general anxiety disorder, GAO. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to play doctor for a second here. Alex, when you knew you were going to be on the program, were you a little bit anxious the first time because you really didn't know me?
Yes, I am always anxious when we're interviewing a new guest and vetting their information.
Okay, Alex, you've now given me authority to report on you because anxiety can be at the extreme a mental illness, and so now I've got to start writing out stuff. I'm going to lead you. Normally,
and they go on and say, "Do you ever get upset?" Well, everybody gets angry. Well, that's a mental illness.
Well, Alex, let me ask you something. Do you believe that a few thousand years ago there was a guy who was killed? He was murdered. He died. His body was buried, and then 3 days later he was brought to life again. Do you believe that?
Well, I know that, and I believe that, and it was Janet Reno said on 60 Minutes that if you believe in Jesus Christ and that he's real and his second coming, you are mentally ill, and this has always been their plan. They're going to say we're mentally ill.
Yeah, I'm going to take you through. I'm just going check, down the list here. But do you believe that there is a spirit that inhabits you, and it enables you to get guidance from another unseen spirit?
Yes.
God, you do. I just put another check mark here. So there's a whole list of things that are going to be asked of you. All of it is to show that you are, in fact, incapable.
And by the way, you're not joking. And it's not just me that gets angry and stuff. Mainline people like Larry Pratt, they call him insane. And they say on the Democratic websites, you're insane. You shouldn't have guns. We're going to get your guns. You're insane because you don't want socialism. And it's all about how they control the narrative. They decide what is. I mean, this is part of their psychosis, is that they're in charge.
And you need to be institutionalized because you're non-compos mentis. You're not in charge of your faculties. It's obvious. You believe in some guy who dies and gets up out of the grave, and and you got a spirit guiding you. Hello, it's lunacy. So that's how they're going to do this to you. All of it to take your guns.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
By the way, in health news, it's up on Infowars.com, the video, the interview, Dorian Yates, 6-time Mr. Olympian, one of the most famous bodybuilders in history, I guess only next to Schwarzenegger. Even I know that. I don't even follow bodybuilding. Has come out against fluoride and talked about how deadly it is in the water supply. And that's good, because then people like that will get to the bodybuilders. And then famous soccer players have come out against fluoride. And then people wake up there, and then a teenage girl in Mississippi spends 3 years exposing a deadly, very toxic chemical in Gatorade, linked to all sorts of problems cumulatively. And now Gatorade's pulling it out. I mean, there is an example of solutions. And the government is going to try to get more power. And then sometimes you're going to get real tyrants in charge that want to go for it all. And that's why we need to say, no, warrantless checkpoints aren't to keep us safe. It's to set up a police state. And now they're saying the warrantless checkpoints aren't for Al-Qaeda. Now they're for gun owners. And everything our guest was announcing, I had to really bite my tongue to not interrupt a bunch, about how we're going to have to wear ankle bracelets if we're found mentally ill, how they can just announce it now under these new federal edicts. They're saying, and the Soviets and the Nazis did this. Hitler, the first people they killed, had been grabbed and ordered mentally ill by psychiatrists. And just like in China, they said, oh, your kid's got a club foot, we're going to kill your 2-year-old. They would take them into the doctor's office and then say, oh, they died of a heart attack. There's actually documentaries on this. They killed hundreds of thousands before they even started arresting political dissidents. And it's eugenics. It's like, why are we seeing the same thing? Because Hitler didn't get it from Germany. He got it from England and from the United States that developed modern eugenics. And then he took it to an extreme level and, quote, discredited it, so the Journal of Eugenics switched over to the Journal of Population and things like that. And I covered that in our film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, available at InfoWarsStore.com. So important to see that. So important to show it to your church. Look, I got calls all over the map, but our guests can obviously speak to any of these. But after these 5 or 6 callers because the Genesis phone board only takes 6 callers. Ours can take 100 at a time. But as soon as you hear a caller hang up, that's your chance to call in. We're going to only open it for military who have been training for gun confiscation or military officers. I mean, it's majors and up that are getting this question, and I've confirmed it. But again, most of these guys say, no, I can confirm it. You know, look at this manual, look at that manual. In fact, I keep forgetting, when you guys type in Army Field Manual, gun confiscation, because I want to give them the dash number and all that, and I forgot to do it during the break. We've written 20 articles or more on it, but I want to give that out again. People want to go look it up. But after we take these 5 or 6 calls that are on the phone board, that'll be your chance to call in 800-259-9231 for military or police are now training with them in gun confiscation. You've got all these drills that used to happen a few times a year, now thousands of times a year, checkpoints, helicopter assaults, Houston, Miami, Chicago, all this week. I've sent the guys 2 years ago to Chicago where they practiced putting citizens in a sports stadium with foreign troops. And again, I've shot video where the Marines train to put Americans in these facilities. Now, it doesn't mean they'll get away with it. You're not supposed to get scared and run and hide under a bridge because of this. You're supposed to go, hey, this isn't morally right. No, no, no. If you cower, see, the globalists hope you just get scared and shut up and go along with them. I'm looking for men and women who will go, no, we're going to stand up against this. And I want to go back to our guest, Dr. Jim Garrow, who, again, has one of the largest chains of English-speaking teaching schools in China since 2000, saved over 45,000 little Chinese baby girls who would have been killed after birth, which they're now promoting here. The big bioethics journal. Last year, people didn't believe it when we published an article linked to them saying, let's kill kids up to age 3 even if they're healthy. It took 3 days for mainstream media to pick it up saying it couldn't be true. And they called. It was a real study put out in their journal. We're going to get to that coming up. We're keeping a little bit in the next hour if you can do it because, again, constitutional lawyer Bruce Fein was stuck in court. He apologized. We appreciate him. He's on tomorrow. Talk about the constitutional attacks that are going on and how to strike back against it. But Dr. Jim Garrow is our guest right now. What about my point? Because I'm not a tough guy, but, you know, if tyranny's coming down on me, I know instinctively or in my spirit to say no and stand up against it. Now, if I can get out of the way, you know, short term, you know, sometimes I do try to back down. But it depends on, you know, what the gut level decision is. And I know giving into tyranny historically, intellectually, but also my gut tells me. My gut says you will not back down. In fact, it's the opposite. It's like I have absolutely no fear, which is like Ezekiel, you know, saying in the Bible, God, they're going to kill me, but it burns in my bones. I can't stop. I mean, it's the opposite of fear. It's not courage. I don't want to be thanked for what I do. I can't control myself. My whole gut, my spirit, my intellect, intellectually it confirms it. You stand up to moves to intimidate you and set up checkpoints and secretly arrest people and NDAA and all this. You don't get scared. But so many people email me and write me and go, what you say is true, but I'm scared. I've got ulcers. I'm an officer in the Army. I don't know what to do. And I don't know about that spirit of fear. You know, good. Thank God we know. Thank God people have spoken up. Thank God this has come out. Thank God. What do you say to those that don't get this and think, oh, my gosh, what's the point of knowing this? It's so negative. Isn't it positive to know so that we can contend and wrestle with this evil?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I would do with those people who aren't willing to listen? You're not responsible for them. You're really not. You're responsible for your own belief system, and then you're responsible for your own family. So, you know, very much like planning for anything else in life, you plan for the survival of yourself and your family. That's what you've got to do. That's what we're looking at. We're not just, this isn't theory now. These people are moving, they're making moves forward that will take away your freedom. They take away the guns. Remember, the first thing that the Germans did was declare that Jews were not quite people, and then the first people to lose the right to own a gun were the Jews. And, of course, that made them the easiest to be rounded up. But let's be careful here. Again, the caution should be think, plan, figure out your escape route, figure out what you will do when they come knocking on your door at night. Do you have somebody to back you up if that happens? Or are you just going to be a ready victim? They'll just march in your home and take you and your family, confiscate the guns and take you and your family away. Do you have a plan for that? That's what you need to do. Let's start planning. And I mean, there are people out there who are accused of being, the crazies, the tinfoil hat kind of people, and conspiracy theorists. Well, conspiring together, that's what law is all about. We make a social contract. We conspire together to come up with laws and a way to handle and control society. Well, this is going beyond that, but now they're going to handle and control us. Now, what are you going to do about it? What is going to be your plan for your family? I think you need to look to that first and foremost responsibility and get it very clear. Have it planned, know what you're going to do, know what you're going to do in the long term.
I agree with you, but my point is they won't get away with this if we simply challenge him. And, folks have always said the archetypal image of the crazy guy is he's yelling. Well, we're yelling to get people out of their coma. Some people are smooth like you. Other people like myself get upset. I also sometimes am calm. But I found I've been successful, not on purpose. I didn't do this on purpose, by being upset sometimes to get people out of their learned helplessness, out of their mass Stockholm syndrome, out of their normalcy bias. Because, I mean, things have gotten so crazy. I want to read this quote. But if I say I will not mention him or speak any more in his name, his word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. Because my uncle, about 15 years ago, I'm sitting across the coffee table from him. He's a big Bible scholar, probably listening right now, my mom's brother. Great guy, Vietnam vet, helicopter pilot, patriot, lived all over the world. And I said, I can't help it when they death threaten me. I can't help it when they get in my face. I don't understand people that are afraid of the New World Order. I can't shut up. It's a burning. And then he quoted the scripture to me, which I'd never read. But, I mean, I just wish other people had the burning in their bones. I mean, I guess you're saying if someone's not called to fight evil, I guess that, you're saying just triage them?
No, I'm saying look to the first responsibility that you have, which is to your family. Make a plan for them. But make sure that your plan is thorough, that you understand they will come when you least expect it. They're not going to come in broad daylight. They'll come at night when you're asleep. They'll bang on your door when you're least prepared to react properly. That's when this is going to start to happen. They've already, done the groundwork. They've got the evidence on you.
They did tests last year where Brandon Robb and all these Marines, honorably discharged officers, no criminal record, would mildly criticize Obama, and they would have the police come and mentally commit them. It's happened to a bunch of talk show hosts already last year.
Yeah, and look what they're saying. They're saying that anyone who's been a veteran, who's been overseas, comes back, you're immediately suspect of being a terrorist or a terrorist threat. And what's that about?
You mentioned Hitler. First, they went after a group who'd been demonized and unpopular, the Jews, but then they went after every group. The famous quote of they went after the Jews, I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't stand up. They went after the Methodist, I wasn't a Methodist, I didn't stand up. I mean, by the end of it, the Nazis, my grandfather became an inventor because in Dallas growing up, he lived next door to a famous inventor who'd been involved inventing indoor refrigeration or taking those systems, indoor air conditioning. And this guy was a German immigrant. Since he was a little kid, but he spoke German, and my grandfather, had a lot of German ancestors, so he spoke some German, Germans that came into Texas, so they became friends. He worked with him some. The Germans extorted, he told me this story when I was a little kid, all the money out of that guy before and then right up to World War II, threatening to kill his family, and the guy wasn't Jewish. So, I mean, people that say, oh, the Nazis, didn't really do all this stuff, baloney. And I'm telling you, it's the same organized crime system that we're now seeing unfold. I mean, this is a great danger.
Oh, amen. And the fact that you've been cautioning people for years, to me, is like, wow, you've been thinking ahead. You've been, that is the problem, though. You're so far ahead of the curve of the reality of today. Like everyone's secure. We're snug as a bug in a rug. Things are working well. Society is great. We got power. We got water. We got gas in our car. We can go on holiday. We got money in the bank. We got a job. Yeah, well, wait until all of it is cut off. What's your plan? That's what I keep coming back to. Like, we're not talking about what my officer friend cautioned beyond, but basically where he went with the whole scenario was, what will the public do when they finally pull the plug on everything? And
that's the deal. They're derating the banks. They're derating the country. They're saying we're going to go double the debt to our GDP. They're doing it on purpose to make us dependent. And what will happen when they drop the hammer? I guess they're going to say, do what you're told or starve to death. And I want people to know, when the globalists take down America, it's not going to be creeping anymore. They're gearing up for an all-out assault. And
Blitzkrieg, yeah. Blitzkrieg.
Absolutely. A lightning war. I mean, it's incredible against us. And, man, I tell you, folks, don't be afraid. Speak out now. I believe it's going to backfire. And they may back off. Here's the problem. They've committed to an economic collapse. They may not be able to stop. But I see every sign they're trying to just accelerate the collapse while posing as the savior.
Alex, you're absolutely right. The signs that I'm getting and the word that I'm getting back is that when I was told this that last Monday morning, that since we put it into the public view, look at the things that have happened. Bang, all of a sudden we've got, well, you know better what's going on. I don't know the list of things that are going on, but things are accelerating. I think what we've helped to do is push them through fear and the purchase of guns and ammo. That's the big thing that they weren't counting on. They didn't count that the American public would go in that direction. You know, what they were hoping for was that everyone would just, you know, everything business as usual. You know, it's only the government doing this, doing that. Obama, you know, the kindly father, the great smile. That he's not evil. He's not going to do anything to us. This is all for our good. Sounds very much like how Hitler was viewed as well. The night that's coming, and I keep saying it's night because actually Scripture talks about a night. It's not when you're ready for it. It's at night that they're going to come and this is all going to happen. It's in that night when you will need to be prepared. So what are you doing to protect your own family? What are you doing to network your neighborhood so that there is a group of people to protect one another? Because remember something, it's overwhelming force that they're being taught to use. Overwhelming force. What happened at Waco? And I bring up Waco as an example because here was overwhelming force. And in the end, they just brutalized and murdered all those women and children.
And then the military posed with the skulls. They were very, very proud of the work they'd done when they could have arrested Koresh in town, who went into town every day and had a business in town. We're going to come back and take calls. Can you stay with us 20 minutes the next hour?
Yes, sir.
All right, that way we can get through these calls and open it up for military officers who'd like to call in and talk about this. Have you been told, you know, will you fire American citizens? I mean, we know it was in 29 Palm survey. Stay with us. ProPure is introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. This is the Pro One by ProPure. You wanted it, you got it. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It cuts out the acid derivative of fluoride. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. This is a revolution against the tyrants. They love putting the toxic acid base of fluoride into your water. They love the fact that it's an adjuvant supercharging the trace Prozac in the water and the hormones and the other chemicals. By cutting out fluoride, you cut out the turbocharger in all the poison being artificially introduced into your body. This is what I use. It's a win-win. You get a high-quality product at the lowest price. You support the InfoWar. Get your ProPure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. And again, the way tyrants work is they just ease you into it. But the general population out there inside this giant re-education camp that has become America need to ask themselves, do you want to be slaves under this? Now, again, we got a bunch of calls for our guests. They'll be all over the map. Some of them were holding before he got on with us. But then as each person hangs up, we're only taking calls in the next hour of military and police. I mean, again, In fact, we put the Army manual back up on screen if you haven't taken it down. I want to give people the 2010 Army manual, internment and resettlement operations, how to scan your Social Security number, how to put the children in one area of the camp, how to confiscate the guns, how to lock down U.S. cities. 3-39.40, internment resettlement operations. So there's more proof of what our guest is saying. Or the Army Times admits it, Brigade Homeland, the big police chief summit that they had Janet Napolitano at, said the new threat isn't al-Qaeda, just this week, but Monday, the new threat is returning veterans, gun owners, conservatives, and libertarians. We are violent, radical extremists. Because we know that globalists have taken the country over. And again, our guest is Dr. Jim Garrow. Let's go to Diane, then we'll go to Jeannie and others. Diane, you want to talk about martial law? Go ahead.
Well, I got a couple things. First of all, I think I'm in good company. I guess I'm mentally ill because I believe there's an evil plan. But I'm not going to get in fear. It's going to be scary, but I've read the book and I know how it ends. It's going to be good. I was wondering if you could confirm on one of these sites you've had on before, it's news.com, that there was evidently a truck pulled over that they found the martial law signs in the truck in Houston. And then I've been reading more and more articles. I'm trying to keep moving for you. I've been reading more and more articles about martial law just being inflicted in the home, where when we finally run out of food and supplies, we'll come out and submit. And I was wondering what you thought about that. I have an uncle that's retired from the Air Force that thinks we're total crackpots, that there will not even be a problem with the economy or anything against our guns for 10 or 20 more years. And he just retired in the last 6 years. And
yeah, notice people that are delusional think it's all going to happen after they die. It's always, and see, it's the old-timers that held all this back. And see, that's the paradox. Patriots hold it back, but still we're sliding, so we've slowed it down. And then as everything starts to happen, like we said, oh, well, it's supposed to be worse than this, as we battle to win the war against these people. I mean, it's such a mind game that's been played. But no, unfortunately, that martial law sign thing I've been hearing for 17 years, it's a proverbial deal. They're not going to call it martial law. It's going to be called civil emergency. And they're already, look, it's martial law when the TSA sticks their hands down your pants. It's martial law when the police have checkpoints in your town. It's martial law when the TSA is down on Lamar right now running checkpoints, searching people without warrants in Austin where I live. It's martial law when the military does drill in cities every day. I want to go back to our guest. Thank you for the call, ma'am. What about her point about martial law? We're always looking for martial law, martial law. If there is a big martial law, it's what about false flags? I asked that question earlier. You never got to it. What about Obama staging things?
Well, you know, and by the way, I didn't hear any of the caller's words at all.
I'm sorry.
I was cut off. But in terms of what he does, let's face it, I think I've said this before, he's an incrementalist. That's what he does. It's by small increments that he sees what he can get away with and continues to go further and further and further at every turn. So in terms of martial law, remember, he's looking for a crisis, and then he will, as they said, we will manage the crisis. So the management of that crisis may be that you lose your freedoms totally. Right now,
tell you what, stay there. Back in 60 seconds. I want to hear more on this false flag or using crises. Straight ahead. Stay with us. MSNBC trying to get racial division going. They know full well when they call white people crackers and racist and all Southerners scum every day, that it will make whites start thinking that blacks and people are all racist. It's just unbelievable evil going on. I'm going to play a clip of that for our guest coming up. We just had a phone line open there for a moment for current serving military. Are they training you? We know they're training you to confiscate guns. I just showed the Army manual where it says that. But are they saying if you won't fire on Americans, you're in trouble? That's coming up after the break. But our guest, Jim Garrow, before we go back to calls, again, don't let a good crisis go to waste. But they staged Fast and Furious to blame the Second Amendment, shipping guns to Mexico. What about them actually staging something? I mean, if they're willing to do all this, why wouldn't they stage something? They've done it before.
Well, wasn't Benghazi also something that was staged, basically? It was meant to be a kidnapping, a quasi-pseudo-kidnapping of the ambassador, and then he would work it through the details so that in the end you had the blind sheik being released so that the dear leader could once again look heroic to the Muslim population.
And instead, he got killed.
Instead, the whole thing, and you know what? Two gentlemen stood up and put their lives on the line and held back 500 people for how many hours, Alex? 8 hours, and screamed for help, and were denied it, even though they had a gunship up there.
Well, they had 2 drones and a gunship up there over the 8 hours, and the help was denied. Why did they want them dead?
And you know, this is all information that's available. We know that they had the gunship. We know that they had the drones there. We know that they had the laser targeting. And these people were left. Whatever happened to, don't leave any man behind. I mean, this man in the White House is, man, I cannot believe. No morals, no scruples.
Well, he gets away with anything, and that's what's so scary. He's been given word he can move forward. Janine in Wisconsin, thanks for holding her on the air.
Hi, Alex. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to share some ideas that I'm currently using to spread the word. And actually, I got the information and idea from you. I think you had said once that we need to, go out on the street corners with a sign that says, 9/11 was an inside job, or whatever you wanted to put on it. And I actually have 16 signs that line my front yard, almost like the old political signs from the useless people that are running for city councils and stuff. I actually have 16 signs that have different various things from 9/11 to vaccines. I have a 6-year-old grandson that's got brain damage from vaccines when he was 18 months, so I advocate for that. And I also have magnets that I had custom made that I have on my truck on both sides and the back. InfoWars, Alex Jones, Hear the Truth, and I got bullet points of everything to direct them to you.
Well, ma'am, that's the reason we're reaching exponentially more people, and God bless you. It is a great idea. In fact, I've been so busy with other projects I haven't announced yet. We're going to give away 150,000 bumper stickers. In fact, I'm going to shoot a video about that tonight. People have to sign a little pledge not to put them on other people's property or in illegal areas. And we'll send out 50 to 100 stickers, depending on what people request. So you can give them to people at church, use them as a topic point, put them on your property, put them on other people's property that have authorized you to. So we're going to send out 150,000 bumper stickers that say Infowars.com, Save the Constitution, and things like that. There's 5 different stickers. So that's a great idea, ma'am. All of us need to just get the buzz of liberty going. God bless you. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, can I add something? Is that
sure, go ahead, sir.
Me? Oh, good. There's the usual way where we stand up as a public. We run for council. We run for city council. We run for different positions that are open to us. We run for school board. But let me just tell you a little bit, if I may, about standing up. And I love the woman's creativity. I mean, that's marvelous.
Stay there. We're going to come back and talk to you. Long segment coming up with our guests, how to stand up. And we're going to talk to the military. The phones are open, 800-259-9231. It's close to 59,000 when I checked last week. People have died since 2007 in Mexico. It's approaching 60,000. And I believe there's tens of thousands they don't know about that have been buried. There's some estimates over 50,000 missing. So that could be 109,000. But more people die every year in Mexico than died in the decade of the Vietnam War. 58,000 Americans died roughly over that decade-long plus conflict. We're talking about 59,000 since 2007. So 5.5, 6 years. And we need to get that number out because all guns have been taken in Mexico from the people. And the reason I raise that is at least 3 shot at office complex in Phoenix, Arizona. This is just breaking the last 15 minutes or so. And an employee at a law office in the area told newspapers he had seen 4 people taken in on stretchers. We've also got helicopter shots of that. Television footage shows dozens of officers entering a building where police say people are injured. And again, it's either gangs, it's somebody going postal, or it is a Prozac hit. It's always the same MO. And the answer is have guns in there. Because a bad person with a gun is going to kill you, just like Mexico. They got the highest crime rate in the world. They don't have the highest city, though. Mexico City isn't #1. Chicago is. By the way, the Chicago police chief, I've got that in the stack. He's saying, don't worry. You know, we've had a 530-something killed last year. We've taken all your guns. Highest crime rate for any city in the world. It's not that bad. That's the quote in the Associated Press. In fact, I have even a video clip of him I was seeing this morning. It's not that bad, though he's in press conferences wanting you to turn your guns in. Where he's taken the guns, the murders aren't that bad. Oh, but isn't Sandy Hook terrible that this guy got guns illegally? And now you got to turn your guns in. But when people get killed in his gun-free zone, it's no big deal. So numerous emergency vehicles are at the scene. Video footage showing a person being taken on a gurney reached at the scene. And it's gotten to the point with more kids built a Lego. It looked like a gun with a Lego, so the SWAT team was called. That happened today. It's this total hysteria. People drive by and see a kid with a Nerf gun, bright orange, helicopters, police foaming at the mouth, hyperventilating, bubble projectors. Now the police are being called. I mean, there's nothing more deadly than a pink Hello Kitty bubble gun. I want to go back to our guest, Jim Garrow, and he want to talk about some solutions and standing up. He's somebody that knows how to stand up. And then we're going to go to James in Colorado, who's a Marine, who can comment on, has he been told, you know, are you ready to fire on American citizens? And the lines are open just for military people now. We've got some others that are holding from before. I'll get to you as well. But 800-259-9231. Our guest, of course, has talked to a, quote, living military legend who says he's talked to other officers who are being told now as a litmus test, will you fire on citizens? Well, I have the Army manual where they're now training for gun confiscation and shooting us. And the drills are waves of protesters being mowed down by full auto. Homeland Security's bought 1.6+ billion bullets the last 14 months, as you know, and now a new purchase order for Homeland Security, quote, personal protection weapons. We had that up at Infowars.com yesterday from the Federal Registry for 7,000 fully auto 308s for personal protection. Just you know, every week there's more purchases. So they're gearing up for World War III against us. But make your point about solutions, standing up in your words, then we'll go to that Marine.
Well, let's face it, in your local community, that's where you have your biggest sphere of influence. Generally, that's just a normal Joe, like you and I in our little neighborhood. So what you do is you run for office, you run for dog catcher, you run for police chief, you run for whatever. I want to give an illustration of the use of Alinsky tactics. I ran for school board in my local town. I won. Got on there. I started, putting the boots to the people who were just rubber stamping whatever the administration wanted in the school district, and it meant spending money like a drunken sailor. So what they did is utilize the media fully socialist Marxist up here in Canada, where I am at the moment, and I was back then. And so they use that Alinsky method. They freeze you, they demonize you, and they cause it that no one will listen to you, because the media, of course, tells the tale and controls the message. And that's what they will do. You must have a vehicle, some way of getting your message out. If you're going to run for anything, so that the truth is always available to the public you serve. But make sure that you have that vehicle. If you don't have it, you're dead, because the media will cripple you. They will freeze you. They will demonize you. They will put you out of business so no one listens to you.
But now Governor Cuomo, who wants to basically ban all our guns, total gangster, his brother is now the morning CNN anchor. But CNN's top show has 500,000. Their average show about 90,000. They are an illusion. They are imploding. In fact, there's news today. When I was there, and I've been to their studios 3 times, it looked like a third world facility. I don't want to describe it, but I mean, the bathrooms, because after I saw one, I said, did they put me in this on purpose? I went and checked a few more. The carpet, light bulbs out, dirt on the floors in the studios, horrible morale. I mean, these guys are falling apart, but here it is. Cloward-Piven strategy. And of course, that's the 1966 sociologist that I first told people about 15 years ago that books have been now written about by others. My greatest success is, even though, you know, I'm not Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, I make stuff popular and then they pick it up, which I think is great. You know, I force it out there. But it was a plan to bankrupt New York City and other cities to make you accept socialism. The plan is to get you dependent. And this is published and officially used by the Democratic Party. That's why they're going to shut off your power plants. They're going to raise taxes on working poor until you give up and go on welfare. They want to run your life. Let's go to some Marines here. We've got James in Colorado. We'll go to him in a moment. But first, JC in Montana, Marine with news on General. So we'll see what that's about. And then we've got Army National Guard, Matt in Florida. Again, if you just joined us, our source, a top general, retired, told him that they're doing a litmus test now. Will you fire on U.S. citizens? And if not, you're ordered to resign your commission. I have all the background proving that's already happening. I found that in the news. And in Army manuals the last 3 years, it's changed. But what's unprecedented is, totally unprecedented is, the new SecDef nominee, Hagel, came out and said, you cannot trust the military. They're not on your side, Obama. You've got to have a purge of them if you want your new world order. That was Washington Post yesterday. Okay, and we wrote an article about it at Infowars.com. I mean, this is going on, and it's a big deal. So let's go to JC. JC, well, what can you tell us?
Hey, Alex. Hey, Jim. How's it going?
It's going all right.
First of all, General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, from CENTCOM, was fired. And I'll read you what the Blaze put on. It's like, United States Marine Corps General James Mad Dog Mattis was notified he was being replaced as commander of Central Command, not by a phone call from Washington, but by a note by his aide, according to Foreign Policy's Thomas E. Ricks. General Mattis was traveling in a meeting when an aide passed him a note telling him that the Pentagon had announced his replacement as head of Central Command.
No, I saw that a while back. 4 generals in the last month have been relieved. And the CENTCOM folks are angry because they begged the White House in the 8-hour Benghazi operation to let them bomb the targets and were ordered to stand down. That's come out.
In CENTCOM, General Mattis is loved. He's a good man. He's a Marine. I mean, I'm a Marine. I mean, everyone loves this guy. I mean, I don't know if Jim's source was referencing Jim. He's probably referencing someone younger, the way he talks, that it was mentored by the generals that he knows. But when Mattis is out of Central Command, something's wrong. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, and some of the stuff I read was General Mattis said he doesn't have the balls to come down here and tell me himself. I mean, this is the kind of man he is. Well, you don't get a name like Mad Dog for being diplomatic. But, I mean, this was a man that protected America, loved America, and, well, that's probably the reason he's not in CENTCOM no more. But,
well, no, there is a look. The military purge is already confirmed, but the new Secretary of Defense they're trying to confirm. The nominee says you can't trust the military, and they're purging them all around us. I appreciate your call. God bless you. This just backs up everything Jim Garrow, Dr. Garrow's saying from the MO, and I looked it up, and I know these guys run in the same circles. I believe it's General Boykin, the former head of Special Forces, because he's already speaking out. I already know people that know him well. He's anti-New World Order. He's in the film that we sell, Behold a Pale Horse with Charlie Daniels. He's speaking out right now about tyranny. I believe it's General Boykin. But, yeah, what about the general purge of the military and the new Secretary of Defense, who's a top globalist, Hagel, a fake Republican, a fake conservative, saying that, you know, the Obama can't trust the military?
Well, to do that, what an admission. Here are the people that are ready to lay their life on the line. I mean, think about this, the difference here. You got the military ready to lay their lives on the line. You got the politicians. What are they ready to lay? They're ready to go out and have a great wine and cheese at your expense and supposedly or purport to be representing you. And they're the ones that are afraid of the military. Well, they should be afraid of the military because they have not lost their sense of priority. Politicians have lost the priority.
And Leon
Where they should
Panetta,
have been.
remember last year, he wouldn't go to any bases with any of even the officers armed. Remember that?
Yeah. Could it be that they really would rather not see him?
Well, I mean, that's why they want to go to robots and drones, because despots have always hated having to have real men do the killing for them. And so they despise them. That's why as soon as they're out of the military, they're the #1 enemy of Homeland Security. You heard me again. This is public. This is admitted. Our government says the military is the terrorist. I mean, wake up, folks. James Mattis, he said, in order to kill the enemy, you have to kill an innocent. Don't take the shot. Don't create more enemies than you can take out by some immoral act. See, that's what they don't like, though. They want people who think it's tough to just, you know, put al-Qaeda in charge and then later go in and fight al-Qaeda after you give them control of Syria. And a lot of the generals have been saying we should not be giving missiles to al-Qaeda. We should not, I mean, obviously you shouldn't be doing this. And the system doesn't care. They're going full speed ahead. They think the public is so dumb. Our government, CENTCOM, had to put al-Qaeda in charge of Libya, now in Syria. And that's why they've removed, it's 3 top officers out of CENTCOM alone. So when I say 4 total, it's way more than that. I mean, they're kicking people out everywhere. There is a purge. There is a purge of the military because they don't want to be used domestically and they don't want to work with al-Qaeda. And we're forcing that public debate, and that's a good thing. Let's talk with our guest who's going to ride shotgun with us for the rest of the hour. Let's go ahead and talk to Kevin, a Marine in Texas, and then we'll go to James, who's a Marine in Colorado, and National Guard folks, Matt and Bob, who was in the Rob, who was in the Coast Guard with an internal survey on gun confiscation. We know they've been creeping around with that for a while. But let's go to Kevin. Kevin, you're on the air. Go ahead and give us your point.
Hey, thanks. Just to go on with what you're saying about that whole purge of the military. Well, the Marine Force Reserve is actually doing a FISRIG where every unit's getting realigned and with different MOSs, which is going to actually bring up, you're going to have thousands and thousands upon Marines being dropped out, kicked out of the military.
Well, you got to make places for the new women to fight in the front lines.
Well, right, but like at my unit, we're a combat arms unit, but we're not like infantry. We're tracks and stuff. 98% of my unit is going to be dropped, and that's going on across the nation. So you're going to have all these Marines being dropped out of the military, and then to go on along with what you were saying, you know, about how the military is on your side, blah 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 blah. This is going to, I guess, the way I'm thinking is it's going to actually have a effect on, you know, how you say.
Did you hear Al Sharpton basically say we don't need the military anymore? We have drones, and then if Americans cause problems, they've got drones. We played the clip yesterday. Let's cue that up in the next segment. I want to play that for people. I mean, that's every time I'm on the Young Turks show or I'm on another show, they go, we've got drones now. You gun owners are nothing. They admit it's all about them dominating us. And they, hey, sorry, you don't have your robot army yet. It's still humans piloting those now. Very interesting. Now, have you guys had anything brought up to you about will you fire on American citizens?
I got a recent survey dropped in my email. I haven't opened it yet, but a couple of my fellow Marines have. And they said there's some sketchy stuff in there about, you know, what would you do if, you know, Americans did this, did that. So, I mean, I haven't necessarily opened it yet, but I'm going to go home and open it. And another thing, have you seen the movie 2016?
Yes, I have. But let me just ask you a question. Do me a favor. Send me that survey. Open that, and everybody send your surveys and stuff to showtips@infowars.com with military questionnaire in the forum. Everybody has a right to see this. It's not classified. Everybody send that to us. Dr. Garrow's got a comment. Thank you for the call, sir. Go ahead.
Actually, he's covered the ground I wanted to cover, which is, you know, what information do you have at your beck and call right now? Because I've had other people say that to me, you know, guys, and this was a couple of Marines who said it, who actually said, look, we just got something that said we are supposed to start looking very carefully at what the public are doing. and get ready to answer these the following questions. So I'm glad he brought that up. It was exactly where I was headed.
And by the way, that's total treason. That 29 Palms happened, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, but there's been others. I mean, this is in the Army manuals, but we need to show that they're vetting people right now. Officers are going to be asked point blank. Enlisted are going to have these more creepy questions brought to them. Let's go to James, a Marine in Colorado. What's your information on this front?
Yeah, I want to get straight to the point, Alex. I just want to ask a question to all the people that are listening right now on your show. That when was the last time they remember someone that has revealed a lot of things of the government, Federal Reserve, exposing them a lot? When was the last time someone has survived that, or died or gone to jail? Well,
there have been G. Edward Griffin, myself, Ron Paul, hundreds and hundreds of prominent people. We're the majority of thinkers. We're taking America back. We're victorious. Did you have a comment? Have you been asked if you will shoot at Americans? Again, he was our guest the last hour. He's riding shotgun while we take your calls in this hour. And he's Dr. Jim Garrow. He heads up www.pinkpagodagirls.com. That's a group that saved, since 2000, 45,000 plus Chinese newborn babies that would have been infanticided, killed, which the major journals, bioethics journals, are now basically saying is a great thing to do here in the United States. Just absolutely hellish. They say, kill the old people, kill the babies. Nobody needs them. You'll get more tax money if we kill people. Once they communalize and get things collectivized, then they can tell you how to live your life. And that people dying, as Bill Gates says, you kill grandma, that's a death panel, that's a quote, then you hire 10 teachers, and the teachers clap. That's the sick collectivist model instead of grow the pie. And then you become North Korea and everything collapses, but they love it. But going back to the caller who was a Marine, I think in Colorado, did he hang up? Because he said he was a Marine, but I couldn't really understand. Yeah, he dropped off. He was talking about, I couldn't really tell what he was getting into, and then I said I'd come back to him, but I guess he didn't understand that. Let's talk to Matt in Florida, Army National Guard. Matt in Florida wants to comment. Again, we know the Army manuals, if you just joined us, in the last 3 years now trained for gun confiscation. And we know the military is being prepared for domestic operations. That's admitted. They're saying the new enemy is not al-Qaeda. It's conservatives, libertarians, gun owners. But now we've seen the incoming, if he gets confirmed, Secretary of Defense, former Senator Hagel, saying the military can't be trusted, that Obama, if he wants his new world order, has to deal with the Pentagon, that they're not following orders. We know what the orders are. Give al-Qaeda missiles, set up checkpoints on highways. The military's been saying no, so there's a huge purge going right now. If you're a new listener, folks, it's mainstream news. The government gives al-Qaeda weapons now publicly. Well, why not? They can take our liberties when they attack. I mean, this all is so diabolical. But let's go to another caller here. Matt in Florida, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I've been commissioned for, almost 11 years now. I've been in the Guard the whole time. And I will, bottom line up front, I will never confiscate anybody's guns. I will fight that order. I will never shoot on my fellow citizens. I'll fight. That's why they got the guys in Katrina from another state, because they knew their guys in their own state, in their own neighborhood, wouldn't confiscate their fellow neighbors' guns.
See, that's ridiculous. So, if I'm from Texas, I wouldn't take New Yorkers' guns. I mean, how is it different from a different state?
Well, it's mental, I think. I mean, if you're sitting there right in your own city, and that's why they originally got these guys, and that's why a lot of them now come back and say, well, that's ridiculous. Why did I do that? A lot of them were brainwashed. A lot of them are young guys that just didn't know any better.
By the way, that's what the Soviets did, and at Tiananmen Square, the same thing. That's why they had to wait 8 hours. They brought troops in from 300 miles away from another province that spoke a different type of Chinese.
Yeah, and so my concern right now is this whole dual status commander thing, and I know you tried to talk about this before, but it's where a general in the National Guard can command troops from the active duty. So they can come down as long as the governor says, yeah, it's good. They'll come in and they'll be able to basically be on the street with our soldiers, shoulder to shoulder with our National Guard troops, and that's, and then they're around on Posse Comitatus, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just another way of them creeping in that active duty component. And they, they don't know the rules and regulations of the National Guard.
What do you make of the new Army manuals that train for gun confiscation and lockdown of U.S. cities?
It's ridiculous, and I've showed that to some guys, and they're like, "Holy cow!" The guys in my unit, they're like, "This is unbelievable. Where is this?" And so the reason I'm staying in, and the last few years, my wife has always asked me, "Why are you staying in?" You have the things that you say about the military. Well, it's like I stay in because I want to warn people. I want to wake people up. That's why. That's my
beautiful.
And then every time I go to drill on my weekends, every month, I talk to them about what's going on. I wake people up all the time.
That's why they want to have the litmus test purge, is to get the good people out. And again, the military itself is individuals. It's who's in command of it. People say, well, you're anti-military. You don't want checkpoints on the highway. No, I'm pro-Constitution. It's like saying I'm anti-Ford truck. I'm not anti-Ford truck. I don't want a crazy person running me over with a Ford truck. It's just like I'm not anti-gun. I'm anti-bad people with guns, but bad people will always have guns, so I'm going to have my gun. Don't blame me for what somebody else does. Beautiful comments. I want to bring up Dr. Garrow to bring up any points he's got.
Well, the whole psychological breakdown here of loyalties because of familiarity, and that's a classic. That's a classic move to break down not only the loyalty one to another. For example, you know that the guy you've worked with and trained with is going to look after you and have your back in a combat situation. And you know that you're going to be loyal, or they know that you're going to be loyal to the guy who trained you, the officer above you, or overall, let's say the general who has shown themselves to be honorable and very loyal to their men and been a real leader. I mean, that's real loyalty. Well, they want to break that down. They want to break it down because if they can break the familiarity pattern,
yes,
knowing one another and knowing what the expectation is, they can bring in somebody new, and guess what? You'll do what they say. Why? You don't know any better.
But then that actually destroys the military, but they don't care. The heart of military is the honor and taking care of each other because they don't care. They want you to act like robots because they want robots that'll follow their orders. That's why they're going to robots.
No man left behind? Haven't we just seen a huge demonstration of the fact that no longer exists with the commander-in-chief?
Well, it wasn't just left behind. A lot of evidence shows he wanted actually that ambassador killed because he wasn't playing ball and they were transferring missiles to Al-Qaeda. We know they stood down for 8 hours with troops right down the street at a substation base in order to stand down, and only 2 Navy SEALs refused to not follow orders and went down and held off 500 guys for 8 hours. I mean, this is just incredible.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Isn't it? Can I bring up some good news, Alex?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Let me bring up some good news. I got a little thing, and I'm calling this The Mouse That Roared. Remember that silly movie with Peter Sellers, The Mouse That Roared?
Yes.
Remember that? The little Principality of Feswick or something like that gets an atomic bomb, and they cause the United States to surrender. Remember that?
Yes.
That was the mouse that roared. But let me tell you about a little mouse that roared incident that's happening right now. There's a lawsuit. It's against unlawful tyranny filed against Mr. Obama, the United States government, for acting like a king. And it's here. It's been filed as a lawsuit. It's a citizen who's a pauper, has no money, approached the court, made his case. In fact, the judge wanted to throw it out, but for the wrong reason. And so he's come back, refiled, and he's having her removed because she's an Obama appointee who was obviously trying to protect Obama, because this is kind of interesting. It's about the natural law and having a natural born citizen.
By the way, Obama has 2 courts have slapped him down for doing unconstitutional things on recess appointments and other areas. Caller, Matt in Florida, a National Guard officer. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, the other thing is got guys that are in the Army War College and they're as a National Guardsman, and they're basically being talking about this whole dual status commander thing, and almost all the guys, and luckily the guy that I know who's been there because I talked to him, was against the dual status commander. They were actually trying to do regional dual status commanders, which they'd have a commander that would be in charge of several states. And
yeah, what they're doing is they've created the 10. Yeah, they've created the 10 regions with the governors saying you don't need 50. So, we have governors, the governors we appointed. Yeah, they're trying to totally get rid of any state control of the National Guard when it's always been state. Go ahead.
That's what I said. I was like, so that basically goes against all state sovereignty law. I mean, that's just basically usurps the law of that governor, and I guess they would all have to be in on it, but still, it's just like, the state sovereignty doesn't exist anymore at that point. And the final thing was, I know you talked about this before as well, but that Guard Experience magazine that comes out, and I get it, and I got it in the middle of the year last year, and they had on the front cover the threat at home, and it had a guy, his face was blacked out, and he was in military uniform, full battle gear, and it's like the threat at home, talking about how our returning veterans, and he's on a National Guard magazine, and I'm like, this is, I mean, I don't know. They're trying to, every angle they're trying to, throw this at us, and it's like, it's completely ridiculous when they send our guys over 3, 4, 5, 6 times, hopped up on painkillers and depression medicine, and they come back and they wonder why they're upset or angry, or they come back and, their life is totally flipped upside down, and they wonder why these guys are a little off. It's completely ridiculous.
Absolutely. God bless you, and I appreciate your call. We're going to go to more military calls, but first get another comment from Dr. Jim Garrow, who's on with us right now. But if we punch this up for TV viewers, you can see at Infowars.com, June 1st, 2012, we were mailed a copy of this, the actual magazine. This is what the National Guard is all mailed. National Guard magazine cover story specifies Americans as greatest terror threat. Well, it actually says veterans. Imagine... They're telling you you're the terrorist. Now go fight yourself. And let's continue. The latest edition of the Guard's Experience, the National Guard's official magazine, features a cover story titled The Threat at Home. And it is a guy in a National Guard uniform with explosives tucked in. Who and what are the biggest dangers to Homeland Security? Now, if you're a foreign megabank that took over America, you're getting ready to fully gut it, you're going to say the veterans who were patriots and willing to fight, they're the enemy. I mean, imagine if out of a Simpsons episode where the spaceship lands, what's the name of the Simpsons town? Springfield. It's one of the few episodes I've seen. And the spaceship lands and Ugg and Gug, these big 14-foot green aliens, go, "We are your rulers." And the mayor and the Rockefeller guy comes up and says, "Yes, you're right, we bow to you," which is exactly how it would work. This would be like a giant flying saucer landing, announcing, "We'll destroy your planet from orbit if you don't bow to us. And by the way, the new enemy is anyone that says that the planet Booblebapper or whatever isn't in control." And, now here's your new Guard magazine. Anyone that says aliens don't have a right to rule you is the enemy. I mean, founding fathers are bad. George Washington's bad. Bill of Rights is bad. Private property bad. Mao Zedong good. Tyranny good. I mean, this is what they teach at the colleges. And now they're saying, Alex Jones, I mean, they say in articles, "I'm a terrorist, I'm a radical, I'm going to kill people." CNN has said they need to kill me because I'm going to kill them, and they wouldn't want to be in a room with me because I might kill them. I have no criminal record. I mean, these are mad dog tyrants. And, since the guy mentions that, see, when I'm listening to a guest or a caller, I know if they're for real because I'm immersed in this stuff. Okay, I'm not bragging. I mean, I live this. I dream this. So they're saying things. I know if they're true or not. Truth is, I already know almost all this stuff. I just have folks on to give their views on it and different perspectives. I'm here to get you to be aware of it. But the caller's like, "It's so ridiculous they're teaching us the military are the #1 terrorist in our own magazine." That's Alex, because they're a foreign power. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, they're stealing the language, aren't they? Like, think about that. You've got a vet. You've got a man who's given service to the country, and he's the terrorist, okay? Now the public's looking at terrorist, vet. We're redefining the language. Are we not?
Yes, it's incredible.
Okay, do we have some time to talk just for a second about something that goes way back to this whole notion of redefining things and stealing the language?
Absolutely.
Can we do that?
No.
Okay, let me go. Yes?
Yes, go. Give it to us.
Let me go way back. Let's go into the Bible for a second. Do you remember when all of the disciples first came together? Do you remember it says something about, and they held everything in common? They held everything in common. It meant the rich people brought in the goods and services that they had and the dollars that they had because God had blessed them with it. What was the notion? They were going to share it. They were going to have it in common, not a redistribution of wealth. It's a big difference here. There's a huge difference between the sociological kind of thing, the Marxist kind of thing that they're talking about, Obama and crew. So they held everything in common. Later on, we have the English or the British common law. What's it come out of? It comes out of the scriptures. What has Obama done? He has taken communism, and turned it into communism. Two different things. One gives glory to God for the bounty, for the blessings that he has given, and the responsibility that you have one to another as Christians or citizens one to another. You hold things in common. That's why, if you notice Boston Common, isn't that piece of land that everyone has in common? And that used to be the principal part in the downtown of all the little villages that were around, the little towns. There were commons. They were areas where it was held in common. It wasn't privately owned. It was publicly owned. It was held in common for the good of the common man, So what Obama and crew are doing, and they're teaching this in universities, is stealing the language. So you think that because you give something away to someone, that's being a good socialist. Giving to those who have need because you have. Well, that's not what it is. The original Christian message was that we hold all things in common from the bounty of God who gave it to us. So we share that bounty of God as a responsibility, not as a social nightmare defined by Marxism. So I'm just bringing that up for a short message there.
No, you're absolutely right. And right now on screen for TV viewers, I'm showing the PDF of the National Guard magazine. And it says the #1 threat in here is gun owners, veterans, and things like that, next to al-Qaeda. It puts militias next to al-Qaeda, next to counterfeiting, next to loan groups, and says it's the military's job now to operate domestically. And it's in search of the hidden enemy. Look, everywhere but Washington with the globalists that have taken over. Trust no one but the government. Again, that is the message they hammer home. Let's take a few final calls for Dr. Jim Garrow, who's been helping blow the whistle on Obama trying to get the military to fire on citizens. It's good news, though, that Hagel came out and said he's got to get rid of the entire military leadership, that the Pentagon isn't under the president's command, because the president came to Congress and told them he's under NATO and UN command. The president is, by that action, guilty of tyrannical treasonous activity. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, this stuff's so over the top, words can't describe it. Let's go to Rob, who's a New York Coast Guard internal survey on confiscation. Rob, quickly, thanks for holding. Tell us what you know.
Alex, it's an honor to speak with you, and thanks for everything what you're doing to get the message out there.
Thank you, sir.
Back in the early 1990s, I'm going back maybe 1992, 93, they did surveys back then with the U.S. military, and a lot of servicemen says, no, we won't fire upon American people. You know, God forbid if there was ever martial law.
Yeah, no, that was in the news, actually, in about 94. It was Clinton. Yeah, so they've tried this before. The good news is they try, we fight. They try, we fight. It's an eternal battle. Go ahead.
Right, exactly. So what they did was, since the United States military said no, they says, okay, we'll bring in foreign troops under the United Nations, which they did.
And
they hid them in these United Nations biospheres around the country.
Well, they don't even hide them. They do the open training now under NLE and all the rest of it. God bless you. Great points. Your comments on that, Dr. Garrow.
Well, I mean, let's face it. These people are planning. They got a long-range plan in place. I think the Hagel thing is a rather big oops moment, don't you think? I mean, here's honesty coming out, but don't you think that poor Obama's kind of going, you shouldn't have said that in public? But we have the benefit of honesty for a change.
Well, I mean, Hagel has been to Bilderberg. Hagel is somebody they really like. You know, 90+% of the votes when he won the Senate were counted on a company he owned. So that should give you an idea about old Mr. Hagel. Let's jam in one more real quick. Captain Briggs in Illinois, go ahead.
Good day, El Jefe, El Guapo, Alessandro Juan, and Dr. Garrow.
Good to have you here.
I've been running back and forth between Texas, Illinois, and New Jersey, and I've actually spoken to my son who's on active duty in Hawaii. The word from the troops around those three specific areas is no, they will not fire the American people. And when things go down, the National Guard guys will melt back into the populace. And for those guys, like the young Marine who called in earlier, do the right thing, maintain your oath, remember your values, and those of you who are being displaced from Dictator Obama's ranks, take care of your neighborhood and do it as peacefully as possible, but prepare for contingencies.
Well, yeah, again, they're going to stage a false flag or use some other real crisis to come after everybody. And I don't think they're going to get away with it. I mean, for those that just tuned in, Senator Hagel was in the Washington Post. They were quoting him in a meeting saying, you can't trust the military. They're not under your command. Well, that's because we know from the military's actions, they've been refusing unlawful orders. I want to thank Dr. Jim Garrow for joining us. He helps save 45,000 Chinese girls that would have been killed after birth. PinkPagodaGirls.com. Great having you on. Great having that big update, sir.
Thanks, Alex. It was great to be here. Love to do it again.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. I'm going to do a few minutes of overdrive to talk to Jesse, Duff, and Jason. Stay with us. Infowars.com. Jesse in Arizona was saying Congress reported on Arizona shooting beforehand. You know, they did that with Building 7. They said it had fallen in its own footprint before it did, an hour before. And then they said the same thing about JFK because they get their timing off sometimes. Let's go ahead and go to Jesse. Jesse, what did you see?
Thanks for having me on, Alex. I was sitting there watching the local news, and they hadn't even finished locking the building down. And the reporter goes, well, let's go back to the congressional hearings that coincidentally are being held over the gun violence, and Kathy Gifford is having, you know, her speech there, pushing all this propaganda from Obama. And this guy, Mark Kelly, goes, yeah, I have information that there was a shooting in Phoenix, Arizona this morning with multiple injuries, and the people weren't even at the hospital yet being reported locally, but they already knew inside the congressional hearing.
Well, that's because Homeland Security is wired into all the local police departments now, but we need to time that because this won't be the first time they've screwed up if that's what happened. Sometimes they report it before it even starts, and that's how we catch them.
Yeah, but he was knowing that there was multiple injuries and people.
Yeah, it's called jumping the gun. I'll have to look into that. We were recording it this morning, and so we'll look into it. Thank you so much. Great point. By the way, Aaron Dykes ran in with this report. MSNBC edit portrays gun owners as heckling father of Sandy Hook victim. I remember MSNBC is being sued for editing the Zimmerman tape, where Zimmerman's going, okay, there's a guy with a hoodie walking around. Okay, yeah. Well, what's he doing? He's doing this. What color is he? Looks like he's black. They edited it to, yeah, there's a guy walking with a hoodie. He's black. And then got caught doing it. So this is breaking. Cable propaganda network deliberately edits out Sandy Hook family member asking audience a question which gun rights advocate responds to and makes it look like heckling. We're going to, let's add the part about Zimmerman in here. I think that's very, very important to show they have a history of this. You don't turn your guns in, your Southerners are trash. Al Sharpton, we've got to overcome the Southerners and the Constitution. I mean, it's just, it's absolute. We're Northerners. We're going to get the Southerners. Trying to get Northerners to act like that when Northerners aren't like that. Do we have the Al Sharpton about drones? Here's Al Sharpton about, don't worry, your guns mean nothing. We got the drones now. Here it is.
I mean, if you look at the Second Amendment, it was that you would have militia to protect yourself in case the government came and attacked citizens. First of all, if the government were to come to disarm you, you would not be able to use an automatic weapon to defend yourself.
So you're saying game over.
Serious. We're in a world of drones now. So the Second Amendment would not help you in that area. We're talking about people do not have the right to unregulated rights.
You see, and everybody's really smiling when they hear about the drones. Oh, those are our drones. Oh, the government loves us. Yeah, the government's sworn to kill you. I mean, you know, the people that run the government, the globalists, set up Planned Parenthood to make sure most of you weren't born. But it's like the government's our friend. It's that same look like little kids, like they've been, you know, like they're sitting on Santa Claus's lap. Government loves me. Oh, we got the drones now. We got the drones. We got the drones. Meanwhile, what is it? More than half your men end up in prison. I mean, it's just so sick. It's so sick. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?